Hi guys, how you doing? This is Sunny again. Today I am going to change the front and rear brakes on my 2003 Suzuki Gsxr 1000. The steps I'm going to show you, you can probably change brakes on anything after this, on any bike mostly, possibly even cars. What I'm using to change the brakes, well, here's the bike. So I am using the front stand for the triple clamps, sorry, not the triple clamp, the front fork stand, and the rear spool stand. And here are the tools and the parts that I'm going to use to change the brakes. The cardboard is there with some oil on it because I have a car that leaks a little bit of oil, so that's a trick that you can do if a car is leaking some oil. You can put a little rug on it, an old rug, and you can put some cardboard on it that will suck up the oil, so you don't have any stains or anything on any surfaces. And the cardboard can be easily changed, and the rugs can be thrown out. So that's another trick. Also, to do work actually, if you don't want your garage getting dirty or anything like that, or it's a preventive measure. Basically, any fluid spill or whatever, you can just do it on the cardboard, and everything will be nice and clean afterwards. So the brakes I'm using are the EBC Gsxr sintered pads. They are OEM quality. What that means is original equipment manufacturer, as in they would come equipped on the bike from the factory. I bought them from sportbiketracker.com. I got a really good price on them. And these ones in the Gsxr sintered, actually there are different levels. These are the fronts, because front has two calipers, so two sets of brakes for the front. Rear has one caliper, so one set of brake, which is easy to differentiate because they're different sizes and shapes. Now EBC makes a couple of different brake types. This one is the Gsxr sintered pad, which is basically fast street use, possibly beginning to intermediate track use, and they have a pretty decent bite. This is in between the GP, which is a full race pad, and the street pad. Now, why did I choose these? Basically because I'm mostly riding on the street. The only difference in these is the amount of bite that they have, and each one of these increasing order, well, number 1, number 2, number 3 in increasing order, is going to have a greater bite. What that means is that it's going to grip, the brakes are going to be very strong. Now on my bike, which is a 2003 Suzuki Gsxr 1000, I don't want too much bite, because what can happen is the wheels will lock up, because I don't have any ABS or anything like that. You can get away with using even the race pads, I guess, or any kind of pad on a bike that has an ABS, because you don't have to worry about it. You're not gonna flip over or lock up the wheels in any way, shape, or form. So I feel comfortable using sintered pads. If I ever feel that my sintered pads are not good enough for the track, if I ever go to the track, I can just try getting GPFAX and be done with it. So basically, and with these pads, basically only the front pads to be changed, because the rears don't need that much of a bite. So if I was to ever go to the racetrack, I will still keep the rears as the sintered pads, and only the fronts get changed in any way, shape, or form. Besides that, what am I using? Well, here is my Harbor Freight hex bit socket, some CarQuest brake parts cleaner, which I got from Gas Auto Part, this wrench, a screwdriver, a disc caliper brake lube, a rag, some tools. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put the bike on stands and get to working. So guys, as you can see, I put the rear stands first, and now I'm going to put the front stands. Just going to engage it in there, make sure my bars are straight. Yep, they are completely straight. And now I'll jack it up from the front. There you go. Now when you want to take the bike off the stands, you will do it in the reverse order. You will take off the front first and then the rear. So now, let me get a little chair or a stool to sit on. I'll be right back. I am going to start on the rear pads first because that's definitely worn, and since my rears were worn and I went ahead and I just bought a set for the front too, and I was like, you know what, let me just get it done with and just have peace of mind that everything is done right and my bike is ready instead of waiting for that and doing the whole thing all over again. There you go. Actually, what's a better angle for you? I think this is a better angle. Okay, there you go. So, there are my tools. I'll bring them over as I need them. Keep on going back and forth. Actually, that'll be a better angle for you. So what do I need to take off for this? As you can see, it's being held on by these bolts right here. These bolts are holding the caliper on to the bracket. So I'm going to take off these bolts first. Let me get the socket for that. This thing that's 12, yup, it's a 12mm socket. It's a 12mm socket. Yep. Lefty loosey. There you go. Now if you feel like the bolts are stuck or if there's any problem with them, go ahead and spray it with a little bit of WD-40 or whatever lubricant you got. For this bolt, I will have to use this wrench set that I also got from Harbor Freight, because there's very limited access, as you can see, for this bolt right there. This one came off the bracket, so it's easy to just use a wrench. Harbor Freight is a great place to get some cheap tools. I mean, unless you want to shop or you're going to be doing some heavy duty jobs, you just get away with getting a whole set from Harbor Freight for the price of a quality tool from any other place. There you go. Use the box end to make sure nothing slips. It's a 12-meter one, and there you go. It's loose. Here is the caliper. These brakes, I bought the bike in 2008. I didn't ride it since last season, so I don't know. I think the original brakes from 2003, which is pretty normal for the wear, I guess. You can see a little bit of a pad on there. Let me take it out and see what happens. There you go. Take these out. Actually, want to take them apart all the way? I think I do. So not only that, okay, and there you go. So the next step is that I got to take off this shim or whatever that is right there to access that, and to take out this bolt right there. Let me see what size that is. Is that a 4? What size is that? Let's try to just stick it in somehow. Tools. Yeah. Actually, you know what? I don't want to loosen the line, so I'll take it a little easier and gentler. Is this the right size? Yes, it is. This is a 5mm hex bit. So 12 for the caliper bolts, 5 for this. You know what? It would have been easier if I would have just undone this part while it was still while the caliper was still bolted in. And that would have been actually easier for everything, because then the caliper is more stable and you don't have to worry about holding it like this, or the lines being tampered with while you're trying to take off the bolts. So for my front, now that I learned this trick, I will apply it to the fronts. I would just loosen all the bolts while the caliper is still bolted on the bracket. And then it would be okay. You wouldn't have to worry about it. The caliper would just come off, and you could easily just disassemble it completely and change the pads once you loosen all the bolts while the caliper is still bolted on the bracket. Come on. Okay. Boom. There you go. That's how simple it is. And they just came out. Look, they're pretty worn. Pretty worn, as you can see. You know, like this one not as much as this, but still, you know, like they're pretty gone. So I'm gonna put them there. Actually, now they say that you should clean this out first, all the gunk in there, and apply grease to the back of the pads right here. Now, from what I've seen on Sport Bike Track Gear, as you can see, these OEM pads have shims on them. EBC has actually designed their pads in a way where the shim is not needed when you replace them. If it doesn't come in the package from EBC, you don't need to use the shim, the stock shim, because they have increased the back plate width or the thickness of the back plate of the pads to the point where you don't need the shim. So I would apply, I'll show it to you as I go, but I would apply grease on there on the new ones, and I would apply grease right there and there. Let me And I'm going to clean all this gunk off with the brake parts cleaner and the wire brush that I have. Gentle brush, even a toothbrush will be good, because you don't want to scratch up the caliper and the paint and everything. I would just clean this thing as best as I could, you know, inside out and everything, you know. If you won't get a chance to clean this caliper ever again, or at least I don't clean that often. There's a lot of grease on there and gunk. Clean it as best as you can. Wear these gloves actually, because brake part cleaner is, well, it's not corrosive, but brake oil is corrosive. But my hands are very sensitive and I'm prone to eczema, so these gloves basically keep everything away. You don't want all this dirty stuff sticking to the floor, so it's good to have some kind of protection underneath it, or mat or whatever. It's not as clean as I would like it to be, but whatever. You know what? That's good enough for me. I'm not taking my bike to the show. It's an everyday rider bike, you know, commuter bike, so clean it as best as you can with a rag and brushes or whatever you got, you know. Definitely clean this area too, where the bolt is that we took off. Oh, look, everything comes off so nice and easy. What's going on here? What are we going to do now? We have to push these caliper pistons in a bit on both sides. How do you do that? My advice is, some people just put direct pressure on there. What I would do is I would take one of these old pads, put them in the way they're supposed to be in. Well, they're supposed to be in the other way. Like that. Oh, you're just coming out like that, huh? Okay. So any which way they go in, and I would just then try to put pressure on it with the pad so it's more spread out more evenly, and the piston doesn't get damaged or anything that way, you know. Let me see what I got to do that. This works. So this is some kind of plumbing wrench that I have in my house. Whatever works, you know. Any of these adjustable wrenches, as long as you have the space to stick it in. You know. Now you see, as I got this in, and I'm gonna make it tight. So what I'm gonna do is actually, I'm gonna stick a little rag on the back of the pad. Sorry, back of the caliper. So the inside of the caliper is protected by the old pad, the pistons are, and the back surface is protected by the rag, as you can see right there. And just go like that. Okay, that is not working. Let's try to stick it in like that and twist it. There you go. You know what, let me put the pads on both sides. Well, see, I'm learning as I'm doing this, so you guys can save you the agony of trying it on your own and learning it again. So basically what I'm doing is I'm sticking in the old pads, both of them, holding it in place, putting this in, try to get a wrench in or a screwdriver, and then just try to twist it. So there you go. You can see I can stick it in, and I'm just twisting it with the caliper held stably, and there you go. So that's a neat trick where the pistons don't get damaged. Make sure that you don't throw these old pads away right away, you know. Look at that. You see that? That's more than enough space for me to stick on the new pads, because the new pad's going to be thicker. They will not slide on easily back on the disc brake until these caliper pistons are pushed back all the way. Okay, so now we should put the pads on. Let's push this on. Okay, there you go. Here are the rear pads, EBC double H centered. Here is the grease that I got. A little bit on the back of the caliper piston, a little bit of grease over there, a little bit in the little valleys, you know, just wherever you think the pads will come in contact with the caliper. You just want to make sure that you lube up the surfaces between the brake pad and the caliper, so the calipers travel smooth and there is no problems. There you go. All there, all there, all there, all that surface. Might be a little bit more, I'm not sure. I'm doing it right now, but a little sparingly, I guess, because you don't want to have any grease leaking on to the brake rotors or common surface with the brake pad. So there you go. I'm not using the stock pad shims. Let's compare the thickness. You know what? It's saying not to use the stock shim, but I'm not gonna throw these pads out just yet. I will use it without the shims. If there's any problems and I have to do over, I can just simply take these shims off. Okay, so here's a lesson. Don't be in a rush to throw away the old stuff or the boxes, because you don't know if you have to return it or do it over again. It's definitely not a good practice to be in a rush to throw things away. Once everything is done, settled, the pads are broken in, or whatever the case is, then yeah, you know, go ahead and throw it away. Once you got your thing running and there's no more problems. But till you're still figuring out, don't throw away any parts, old parts, or boxes, or whatever the case it is. You know. Let's clean this up a bit too. Right. Lube this up in the back. There we go. Okay. Put this on here. Take this one. Lube that up. Stick it on. There you go. Stick it on so you know, it's just right there. Hold it in place. Stick this in here. Hold it in place. Where is that pen thing? Come on, stay there. Okay. Turn it over. Boom. There you go. Here is the pen. Oh, okay. Here is the pen. Where is the pen? Where is the pen? Push the pads in a bit. Come on, buddy. Don't give me a hard time. Use a screwdriver to just push the pads in place a bit. There you go. There you go. Yeah, you stay there. And you stay there and try to get the pen through the hole. Doesn't want to go in. There you go. Use whatever means you got to. There you go. Push this in a bit so the pen can go through. The problem I'm having is that this pen doesn't want to go through because the pads are not lined up properly. Because the shim that I have is not in properly. I think it's in up a little too much. So I took that out, take out the shim, get the pads through it. Okay. Get the pads through it like that, like that.